This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in New York City. I'm here with ELRU Advisory. Since 2019, they've been helping professionals define their path, pen their story with an easy-to-follow strategy while helping companies with full-cycle recruiting. I'm joined with Eddie Wilders. Thanks so much for joining us here today. You're the owner, storyteller, if you will. I'm going to start off a little bit about yourself. I mean, you grew up in Brooklyn. Your professional life began in marketing, advertising. As you say, the story was successful, but it wasn't real rewarding. You rewrote the story. Mid-game, you ventured into career coaching. Share with me the details of this new story that you wrote and why you decided to do so.
I had been consulting for a few years, working on resume writing, working on LinkedIn optimization, and I felt like it was the time to really start moving more into the coaching side of things and not necessarily just doing writing.
Right.
Basically helping people. Then the pandemic happened, and everything just kind of turned on its head. And every conversation I had was somebody else saying, "Hey, I really need help with this because I don't know what I'm going to do right now." So to go through everything with them step by step and try to figure out the best path for them was something that I started feeling the reward came from that. It was very rewarding for me. So it also made me happy. So
wow,
putting that story together was fantastic.
kind of a good fit for you is what you found. You're probably surprised by it yourself. I mean, in the year 2020, basically, I would say today, after 2020, the job market is really not the same. I mean, you had an experience with recruiting a little bit prior. Did recruiting look anything like it does today, or have you think it's really changed the landscape?
Recruiting changed. Nothing about recruiting is the same as it was 5 years ago, let alone 2 years ago. So everything that has happened in the last 2 years has been really turned, like I'll say it again, has been really turned on its head. The way that people go about finding jobs is different. The way that companies are hiring people is different. It's not so much a put your resume in an envelope and send it out to the company and then the company calls you like it was when I first got jobs.
Yeah.
Now it's a completely different world, and it goes beyond just the job search itself. It goes to your self-branding, your self-marketing, how you present yourself, which is why it's so important to figure out and optimize LinkedIn, optimize your resume and make it stand out a little bit more. There's a few other things that you do in order to get yourself out there. So it's completely different than what it was. Even, I think today is even different than it was back in 2019 and the beginning of 2020. So it's an evolving thing. It's fluid. It's just, it just constantly changes.
A lot of changes, obviously. I mean, 2020 was a year for all of us about kind of reflection. Not only did we ask, are we successful, but we started asking, are we happily successful? I mean, is that something you experience with a lot of the folks that you've worked with?
Yes, I think, and for me personally, I think that question started happening about 7 years ago when my children were first born. Studied a lot about work-life balance and things of that nature, and in the last 2 years, that has become more on the forefront of people's people's thoughts of finding a new job, switching jobs. If they unfortunately were in the position of losing their job, they were given the opportunity to really figure out, okay, does this really work for me? And companies have adopted the hybrid remote work that they should have adopted a long time ago. It's been different in that regard, because the first question I always ask anybody is, so do you want to be in the office or do you want to work remotely? And I think that's a question that's answered individually, obviously, but that's part of the change that has occurred. And I think that's when you think about your work-life balance and you think about what is important to you. Is it important to be home and be able to pick up your kids after school, or is it important to be around coworkers constantly? And that's just it's a personal thing for everybody. So I think that's where that change has really started to occur, is even just that simple answer of yes, I want to be in the office, or no, I want to be at home.
That is interesting. I mean, the Great American Walkout occurred. leaving the workforce in droves with a quit rate that was the highest ever we've seen since the Department of Labor actually even began putting these stats together. Why do you think that walkout occurred?
I just think that people got into a mode of, I'm not wanting to be in the office anymore. And, a lot of companies, so for today, you have a lot of companies that have been in the remote world for 2 years and thrived. Profits are high, revenue is high, and then all of a sudden, no, you have to come back into the office. And it's that old adage of butts and seats. And it's the only way to get your work done. But you've just proven over the last 2 years that you could drive revenue and drive profit by working from home. So I think in that regard, a lot of workers and employees started thinking, hey, no, I don't have to do this. And there's a lot of companies out there that are already 100% remote, that they already have this in place. It's difficult for companies to start putting this in place a little bit more, because you have to change your way of thinking of, okay, I can train this person, but I'm going to be face-to-face with them, but now I have to train them over Zoom, or I have to train them over Microsoft Teams, or whatever it might be. So it's a harder transition for companies to do, and a lot of companies don't want to do it. Luckily, there are a lot more out there that are transitioning, so it's easier to find those companies today.
They've got to kind of learn what the workers want and find that happy balance in between. I mean, Eddie, we finish high school, we complete our upper education, quickly we're out on our career path. Do you feel that many out there never even sit down and purposely, consciously define what that path should be? And is that really where you're kind of there to help?
I was one of those people. So when I graduated from college, I graduated with a degree in interpersonal communication. Okay. I remember going to my senior advisor and sitting down and saying, okay, what can I do with this? And they were like, well, you can pretty much do anything. I said, no, I can't. I can't be a lawyer and I can't be a teacher. But what can I do? Like, what feels, well, you can go into PR, you can go into advertising, marketing, whatever. Yeah. It's like, that's not a career path. That's just like a laundry list of things that I can do. So I think that there's a lot of people who don't take the time to sit back and say, well, what do I really want? Where does my passion lie? And how can I translate that into something that I really love and want to do on a daily basis? Because there's a lot of people out there that will say that if you have the perfect job, it's not work. It's right. What you love doing. So I think that when you sit down and you really think about, well, what drives me? What wakes me up in the morning? What gets me going? And if I can translate that into a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 6 or a 10 to 6, whatever kind of job, you're going to be a lot happier with that. And I think that's something that you need to just take a step back and say, okay, I'm not going to find that perfect job. I'm not interviewing for a job today and getting it today. I need to take a couple of minutes to just think, okay, what do I want?
That is interesting. I mean, as they struggle to find their next great opportunity, I mean, you're able to help them pen that story. What is the process? How does that process start of actually penning the story?
Well, as I said, it starts with that question: what do you want to do? Where do you want to be in an office? Do you want to be remote? From there, it's digging into what you want to do. There's a lot of psychology that kind of goes into job search, and I am nowhere near a psychologist, but I also know that to get to that point, you have to really answer questions about yourself that you might not want to answer. You might not want to be that truthful about it. You just might want to say, hey, I just need a job that gives me money. But then you're going to be in this position in 6 months. So, going into what story you want to tell about yourself is really the everything that goes into the strategy of trying to find a job. That resume, your LinkedIn profile, your elevator pitch, your value proposition, everything is going to be confined to what story you want to tell about yourself and how you portray that, your branding, building your network and utilizing your network the way that you can and should. Going out and talking to people, not being afraid of cold calling, not be afraid of cold emailing, not be afraid of imposter syndrome. There is imposter syndrome, but you can do things the same way that other people do it. There's nothing that says that you have to be, you're the only one that can do this. No, there's plenty of people, and you're the right fit for the right company at the right time, and it's just a matter of, having that patience to go out and find that right company and having that conversation.
I mean, so just like a sports coach, a career coach helps you to dig a little deeper than you normally would be able to do on yourself. I mean, asking those hard questions. I mean, you work with different people at different points in their life, be it brand new to the workforce or those that have been in decades. Everyone's got a unique and different story. Do you enjoy getting to know those stories? And is that kind of the rewarding part for you?
I love it, because everybody's story is unique and everybody's different. And for me, I'm a big television fan, big fan of sitcoms. I love laughing. So listening to people's stories, I can always relate their stories back to some episode of some sitcom that I've watched over the years, and listening to them talk about it, and listening to their stories. I just love being able to have those conversations, get to know somebody. Because like even in a discovery call, whatever, you have 15 minutes, 30 minutes, you're not learning that much about somebody in that amount of time. But talking about television, talking about their lives beyond just their job search, and you get to know them a little bit more. They open up a little bit more. You can laugh a little bit more. You get to know them beyond just their job search and what role they're looking for or what salary they're looking for. You get to know them a little bit more. So yeah, that's the part that I really like.
That professional in front of us, there's actually a kid from Brooklyn who has some comedy in his life, and that's kind of enjoyable to get to know that person. I mean, you provide a strategy. One of the focuses in that strategy is making sure that your resume is tailored to the role you're looking for. I mean, is it easier to pen an effective resume once you actually know what you're actually seeking in a career?
Yeah, once you know those keywords, once you know what you're looking for and how your skills translate into that role, then yes, it becomes easier. I always make sure that whoever I'm working with has a base resume that they, maybe it's 5 pages long of everything that they've ever done, and what you could do is you modify that down to your best foot forward, basically. Okay. And it tells the story of the role that you're going after. And I think it's important to go from a lot to concise. It just makes life easier, and it makes your story more cohesive.
That is interesting. I mean, the hiring process, the job search. I mean, are we dealing with humans? Are we dealing with robots? I mean, face it, all of this sounds a little confusing. Are people overwhelmed kind of with the process and going a little crazy?
Because you're dealing with both. You have to beat a robot to get to a human, and then you have to get through the human. So you have to be able to put forth a document that adheres to the robot and then is interesting to somebody to read. I mean, the average resume is glanced at for about 8 seconds, and I don't know how much of a story you're telling in 8 seconds. So it's a little bit more difficult to get through. But if you can beat those robots and you have all those keywords and you meet all that criteria, then that's a big step. And there's a lot of people who don't even get through that step. So it's difficult, but it's obvious it can be done.
It's difficult, it's confusing, and even on top of that, I think there's a little anxiety of not just telling your story on paper, but getting out in the real world, sharing that story. Networking, is that still a tool, a successful strategy that we use today?
Yes, it is. I think I think the concept of networking is a little different to a lot of different people. I mean, people will say that, I don't have anybody in my network that I can talk to. Well, I don't know. Your aunt and uncle are in the world, and they have jobs. You can use them as network contacts. I think people put too much emphasis on network sometimes, where they're like, I'm not going to get a job unless I talk to 75 people today. Not going to happen. No. So utilizing your network, using those conversations. I mean, to be introduced to somebody through somebody is difficult in itself. Not everybody wants to do it. not everybody wants to network with you. Not everybody wants to talk to you. And the people that you talk to might not have something for you at that exact moment, but having conversations and being human about it and interacting, those are little interviews every day that we have with people. Like, you're interviewing me, and I'm talking to you. I mean, there's something here that might come out of it and say, hey, you might know somebody that says,
totally,
oh, I'm looking for a job. Oh, I just interviewed somebody the other day who's doing that. So it's not necessarily having to speak to the person that is going to directly give you a job, but it's about human interaction. It's about having conversations with people, and that's how you get your name out there. That's how you get recognized. That's how you get remembered, and things of that nature.
I mean, meaningful conversation obviously gets to be an art as well as a science. I mean, I've heard a stat back in the day that 85% of all jobs are found through networking. Yet, how many people still do not even have a quick elevator pitch that they're comfortable with? Is that something you can kind of help them with?
Yep. All of that comes from those same questions.
Okay.
You build your resume, LinkedIn profile, elevator pitch, value proposition. You can even build your own job description and like exactly what you're looking for. All of that comes from like those getting started questions about what you're looking for and what is important to you. And you'd be surprised how easy it is to write an elevator pitch when you sit down and you say, well, I want this, this, and this. Oh, okay. Elevator pitch, 2 sentences, nice and quick, nice and easy. But you'd be surprised. People think about it as it being difficult because they don't want to sit down and answer those questions. So they don't know where to start with those questions. And a lot of what I do is getting them started with those questions and getting those answers and building those documents. And then it's up to them to go out there and utilize it.
Obviously, you're able to help those that are job seekers out there. What about the small companies, the other side that don't have an effective hiring process? Are you able to help that side as well?
So on that side, what ends up happening is you have hiring managers who are stretched thin in that regard. Like, I'm looking as a hiring manager, I'm looking for this, this, and this, but I don't have the time to like really sit down and say, yeah, this is really what I want. And like, they have a wish list of, I have this task that needs to get done. I need somebody to do it, but when it comes down to it, you need to put together a comprehensive job description. You have to actually sit down and ask the right questions of the candidates that you're talking to. And that is something that, unless you're in talent acquisition, and small companies don't have talent acquisition department, they don't have that level of HR that knows how to like go through hundreds of resumes to whittle it down to 15 to bring in 5. They don't know how to do all of that in a time efficient manner. Everything is,
I mean, they might have two.
I got to hire this person, and it's 3 months later and they still haven't hired anybody. The hiring process should literally be 4 weeks, if that. It shouldn't take 4 weeks. You should be able to interview 5 people within a week and make a decision. And companies will drag their feet because they don't have the time to do it. And that's basically, the efficiencies have to get better. And I help with that's how I help, is with the efficiencies and asking the right questions and putting people in the right positions.
That is interesting. So obviously, we all have a story, yet many have not purposely written that story. Some of us may want to rewrite that story. You're helping people that find that elusive work-life balance. I mean, that you found to be your passion. Is it rewarding for you?
Yes. I after 20 plus years of commuting, I am very happy with the work-life balance that I have. In fact, after this, I have to go pick up my daughter at school. We come home, we do homework, we make her a snack, and then I go back and do my work. And I think I wouldn't have been able to do all that if I didn't have that, if I didn't focus on the companies that provided me the ability to do that. And I think when you're in that position, finding those companies, it's you interviewing them at the same time that they're interviewing you. You ask the right questions about what is important to you, that the company can offer you. So that's what I look for. That's what I help people look for, and it depends on what they're looking for. You know, they might not need that flexibility. But you always need something from the company that you're working for.
But you're definitely going to have them dig down deep and ask those questions, which is perfect. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. On the website, you're going to learn about more of the services they provide for you out there. I mean, when you're ready to start exploring some of those questions. Who are you? What makes you stand out? And, you know, that question we've all had since the beginning. What do you want to be when you grow up? That question continues to change. Your life changes. You got kids in place. Things happen. While obviously there are career coaches out there, professionals that can kind of help you, guide you down that path, and basically write the story or rewrite the story to make sure that you have that happy balance that we all seek. Once again, that is ELRU Advisory, located in New York City, helping professionals define their path, pen their story with an easy-to-follow strategy. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and if you don't know, now you know.